What's going on, gamers? This is Token Gaijin bringing you a class guide for SWTOR. Now, this is the first of many to come dealing with MMOs and multiplayer games. Because we are taking a look at so many of these games, you're going to be getting a lot of video guides based around this. I know me and Stash have not played through our entire video playthrough of SWTOR yet. We just got it started, so we won't have too much yet, but we will be bringing more on the way. If you would like to contribute to our SWTOR guides, or just become an author in general, please contact me at tokengaijingaming@gmail.com. That's tokengaijingaming@gmail.com. And we are looking for new help and new people to help us author these. Remember, these are video blogs. We are looking for people just to play with us and to eventually get class guides out and help us with things of that nature. So if you're very invested in gaming and you have the computer rig to do it, please let me know. We're always looking for new help. But getting things underway, this is my first class, and this is going to be a brief overview of my class. Not going to be too in-depth now, just because I'm building this basically as a prototype for what is to come in the site, just to show everyone what the website will be bringing. This is my Sith Inquisitor, and he's an assassin. And what that basically means is in SWTOR you prestige. There's 4 base classes on each side. They mimic each other, and then there's also prestige classes. So for the Inquisitor, there's the Assassin and the Sorcerer, I believe is the other one. And I will be bringing you the Sorcerer as well with my playthrough with Stash Burnside, and he'll be bringing you a Marauder class build guide and also gameplay. But I already leveled the Sith Inquisitor to an Assassin, and I have to say the Sith Inquisitor class is my favorite class. I mean, obviously, I'm playing it a second time with Stash Burnside just because I love the class a lot. Its story is really well written. I gotta give BioWare props for that. He's not the typical Sith that I just want to kill everything. He's more sneaky and conniving, and you know, I liked the way he was. And of course, you know, that Darth Maul had to get the double-bladed lightsaber, so I got a purple lightsaber right here, Mace Windu style. Got a ton of great abilities. And basically with the Assassin, there's 2 things you have to keep in mind when building. The Assassin can go 2 ways. It's a very versatile class, which is something I wasn't expecting when I first played off. You can either tank or you can do DPS. And DPS, for people that are non-MMO players who don't play online games a lot, DPS means damage per second, so basically the damage dealer, or as they called it in Final Fantasy, DD. So basically if you want to roll out damage, or if you want to tank, you can tank. It's more like a shadow tank than it really is a mainstay tank. And shadow tanking, the difference between that and regular tanking is a regular tanking is basically you are a badass motherfucker who can just take everything to the face, and a shadow tank is someone who basically draws your attention but dodges everything. So the Assassin plays more like a shadow tank than he does really any other type of tank. Very, very, very good class, so it's very versatile. And if you play a Sith Inquisitor Assassin, there will be times where you are asked to tank. So it's somewhat quite regular that you respec your Assassin just because for group use. I've been a tank, I've been a damage dealer, I'm used to it all, but I prefer the damage dealer because even though the Sith Assassin can tank, it's really more of a situational tank. Like if you need a tank. Not if you want a tank, it's basically if you desperately need a tank because nobody else is around. So this is the one that I have on Jedi Covenant server. If you're going to join us in gaming, please join the Jedi Covenant server. We're going to be getting a guild prepared in SWTOR relatively soon. I just haven't made it yet. My guild disbanded on this one because they haven't played for a very long time, and the guy that was running it was kind of a dick. So I think I actually just left the guild. I don't even think they disbanded. I'm not sure. But looking at the Sith Assassin, we're going to go into the build now. The build, like armor and gear wise, I really don't have the best gear, to be completely honest. I do have a lot of red gear, but I really haven't spent much time in the end game yet, just because I have so much other things going on. So I will be bringing you more end game stuff. I'm just waiting to get more people that I'm used to playing in these video guides up here so I can actually bust the Sith Assassin back out. So when I get Stash up here, and we need at least 2 more people for the Sith side and the Jedi side. So please, if you're wanting to play, give me a holler, because this game is free to play. I'm probably going to be the only person helping record this that is still a subscriber, because I love this game to death. So, but let's go into the build. Now, each class and each prestige has 3 different skill trees that you can look at, and I've refunded all my points, so I can build it up and explain my build as we go along. You have the Darkness tree, and as you see, it's a defensive tree. So this is if you want to be a tank with the Sith Assassin, which is fairly common. It's not my choice, just because I don't like tanking. If I can, I avoid it. Even though my other class, and I'm bringing a guide relatively soon out that I've already completed, is a Jedi Guardian. So I will have a Jedi Guardian out here to show you a tanking build. But the Assassin's more of a damage dealer, so I'm really not going to mess too much with this tree. I will get a couple skill points in it, but not too much. And then you get Deception. Now, the difference between Deception and Madness, they are both damage-dealing trees, is really just viability. Deception is unfortunately far more viable and far better. I love the Madness tree, don't get me wrong. And if you do Madness, you're perfectly fine to do it. I just don't have a good Madness build, because Madness was my original build. I actually first built into Madness, and I'm kind of sad that Deception is far better than Madness. I wish I could really have spec'd Deception a little bit better, because my favorite ability is in the Madness tree, Death Field. It's this god-awesome, baller-ass, giant cloud of death. It just destroys foes in an AoE. It is a very powerful move. But other than that, the regular boosts itself just were not as beneficial as the Deception tree. So maybe in the near future, I actually think in the near future, I'm going to see if I can actually come up with a good Madness build for everybody. But what we're going to be looking at today is a Deception build. This is the main build that I use in playing for my PvP and PvE. It's a good build for both game types. It's not just a situational build. It's a very well-rounded build, so that way you don't have to muck with your build when you're switching between PvP and PvE areas. So we're going to start this build off. Starting off with the bottom skills, Duplicity and Dark Embrace are going to be the important ones. Dark Embrace when you're in stealth mode, and for 6 seconds after leaving stealth mode, force regenerate is increased to 25%, which is actually really useful, especially for the Sith Assassin, because every time you go into stealth, which can be quite regularly, when you pop out into a group of enemies, or if you do it especially in PvP, force regeneration is really, really nice to have. Especially 25% increase is nice, because then you can just jump out of stealth and just start spamming force abilities to tie down opponents, which is something that the Sith Assassin does. He's a damage dealer that needs to get in and then get out, especially in PvP. In PvE, you will be the kind of guy that can do that as well. You're kind of just running around being kind of pesky and killing on ads and things like that. So this is also very important in PvE, but more so PvP. I cannot stress enough how useful Dark Embrace is in PvP. That force regeneration is very awesome to have when you're in a group of enemies and you're trying to get to those damn objective points. So we're going to put 2 points into Dark Embrace, because it's something that all Sith Assassins should get. Now, we're going to look at Duplicity. Duplicity is also a very, very good ability. It gives you the direct damage attacks that have a 10% chance to grant exploit weakness, causing your next Maul to deal 30% more damage and cost 75% less force. This effect cannot occur more than once every 15 seconds. So, basically, each rank beyond the first reduce this rate limit by 3 seconds. This is really good. Maul is an incredibly good ability. It's something you should be using quite regularly. That's Thrash. Where's Maul? I can't remember where even Maul is. Put it. I put it somewhere. Maul is a very good ability. I would just use this just as a general, because if you are going to be dealing a lot of damage, this is very beneficial, especially since it's going to give you 75% less force use, and every time you do it, and your next Maul will deal 30% more damage. It's just very, very good to have. I highly recommend this ability, so we're going to give it 3. Now, the reason why I'm not putting anything into Insulation is just because Insulation is really good, but you're really not tanking, so there's really no point. We're trying to max out our damage output and not our tanking ability. It's a useful trait to have if you're doing the Darkness tree, because when you get through, you won't use everything in each tree. Like, you should have some spaces where you're not using stuff and borrowing from other trees. This is one that you would borrow for the Darkness tree, but not something that you really need to worry about as a Deception build. Excuse me. Now, moving up, actually, we're going to be taking from each of these 3 abilities in the next line. Now, we've got Obfuscation, I think. Recirculation, and then we also have Avoidance. Obfuscation, wow, I'm having really problems, sorry, that is very important. We want all 3 points in it because it increases your effective stealth level by 1 and movement speed by 5%. So basically it allows you to move a lot faster in stealth. And stealth is something, I mean, you're an assassin. Stealth is something very, very useful that you're going to be using a lot. So 3 points in that is very well worth it. And then Recirculation, you reduce the cooldown of Discharge by 1.5 seconds. Discharge is a very, very useful ability, and it's something that you'll be using quite often, so that's also pretty useful. And then Avoidance. Avoidance reduces the cooldown of Jolt by 1 second, Unbreakable Will by 15 seconds, and Force Speed by 2.5 seconds. You really don't need 2 points into it. I mean, you could if you wanted to. I only put 1 point into it, just because Jolt is a very good move to have, but I really don't see me using it much more than that. The reason why you usually want to get traits that reduce the cooldown of moves is simply because the assassin, since you are damage dealing, you do want to have a nice cycle of damage dealing abilities, and also usually when you get these, they also reduce the force use as well, which is very useful. Now, when we move up to the next line, the first thing we're going to get is easily Surging Charge. Why? Because the green ring, if you see green rings around here in the other trees, green rings mean it's a new ability. It's something that you can use, that I can put on the taskbar and actually use. And Surging Charge is actually very useful. It charges your lightsaber with raw surging force, giving your attacks 25% chance to deal 226 internal damage. So basically, there's no benefit to not getting it. This is an ability that will power up your lightsaber for your regular strikes. You are a damage dealer. You should be getting moves that generate the ability to do more damage. So that's something we are going to be snagging. Also, Dark Swell. Exiting stealth mode now finishes the cooldown to Blackout, and Blackout can now be used out of stealth mode, granting 6 seconds of dark endurance. This is very good. It just allows you to muddle with the cooldown timers a little bit, so it's something that I like to use just because it does boost up a move again. And as you see, I have the prerequisite, which is Dark Embrace. And if you see these lines, then you're new to SWTOR. The lines mean basically if it's connected to something, you have to get one to get the other. Where the bulky part is, you have to get that ability to even access the other ones. So that's what's going on with Surging Charge. I have the ability to get Induction, which I'm actually going to get 2 points in because it increases the critical strike damage dealt by Maul by 30%. In addition, Thrash, Assassinate, and Voltic Stash have a 100% chance to grant Induction while Surging Charge is active. So basically, while this ability, Surging Charge, is active, which I said you want to be using quite regularly, I basically get benefits to multiple of my abilities. So Induction is a very, very good one to have. It's not something you should pass up. If you do, I mean, to each his own, but I don't know what you're doing. And then we go to Deceptive Power. This is just good in general because your force points, basically, you have a max bar, and every time you use a ability, it goes down. So increasing your force points is basically a no-brainer. You really want to have as much force as possible, so we're going to be taking that. Now, in the next bar, as you can see, Surging Charge also unlocks the ability to get Saber Conduit. And Saber Conduit is your Surging Charge has a 33.3% chance to restore 10 force when it deals damage to an enemy. This effect cannot occur more than once every 10 seconds. This is good because, like I said, the Sith Assassin is all about dealing out damage. You want to maximize the amount of force points that you can get back for your moves as possible. So this is something that we're easily spending 3 points into. There's no reason not to because, like I said, Surging Charge is a very good ability to keep using and making sure you're maintaining, and that it just boosts so many abilities. I mean, look, there's 2 different feats just tied to it, and now that's really going to be beneficial. And then we're going to look at the Fade, and it reduces the cooldown for Blackout and Force Cloak by 15 seconds. Additionally, reduces damage taken from area of effect 15%. The real reason why you're getting this is because Fade is used because you're going to be spending a majority of your time in PvP and PvE cloaking. You're the guy that can pull. Basically, if you've never played a MMO before and heard the term Fisherman, basically what Fisherman means is you're the person that goes out and grabs an enemy away from other enemies. So basically, you're grabbing hate and pulling them back to the party. If you are in a situation where you have to fish, Fade is incredibly important. Another really useful thing about Fade is simply because in PvP, that area of effect damage is reduced. And area of effect in PvP can be kind of a bitch. You really could put 2 points in either this or Static Cling, But Static Cling, I mean, it does help for enfeebling, but we're trying to maximize damage. If I wanted to just be, I mean, Static Force Slow is already kind of annoying as it is, so I really don't need to upgrade it. I'm not the Enfeebler, I'm not kind of the Enhancer or Debuffer or whatever you want to call it, so I find that Fade is more beneficial. So moving on, we've got a next ability, and this is the only tree I think that has, no, Darkness has 3 abilities. I guess Madness is the only one that has 2. We're going to move on to the next one. We have Low Slash. And Low Slash is basically just an attack move. It can do 871 to 999 weapon damage. And incapacitating the target for 4 seconds is pretty useful. So it's something you're going to get. It's a damage dealing move. It's a pretty decent move damage-wise. And also the incapacitation is kind of nice. Then Static Charges. When your Surging Charge deals damage, you have 50% chance to build Static Charge, increasing the damage dealt by your next Surging Charge. Like I said, this is something that will really benefit you just because it just makes your Surging Charge far more better. So it's a feat that I would get just because it boosts up a move yet again and allows you to spam it more often. Entropic Field. Dealing a critical hit has 50% chance to grant Entropic Field, increasing damage reduction by 1% for 15 seconds, stacking up 3 times. This is good just because it allows you to take some hits. And you really just need to get it. You don't need to put the 2 points in it, I think, to get to the next part. No, you only need the 1. But I just get the 2 because it's generally a good thing to have. Really, you had to put 1 in it anyway just to get to the 3rd line. But I like having 2 points in it. It's very beneficial. And then we're going to go to Crackling Blasts. It increases the critical strike damage dealt by your discharge effect and shock by 25. So more increase the discharge and for shock, which is good because now those moves are just boosted a lot more. And then Resourcefulness, since I can't get Magnetism because I didn't take Static Cling, it reduces the force cost of Lacerate by 5 and reduces the cooldown of Overcharge Saber by 15 seconds. So that's another thing we want anyway. And while this one is kind of annoying, like Magnetism and Static Cling are kind of useful, it really just depends on what you're going for. I'm maximizing damage output. Like I said, I'm a damage dealer. This is kind of good to have, to be honest. You could do a Static Cling and Magnetism, and you could negate like the Entropic Field and the Resourcefulness. But I generally I think Resourcefulness is just, alright, Crackling Blast. I'd go away from Crackling Blast more than I would Resourcefulness because Lacerate's kind of a bitch. But I would stay away from this just in general. I think these two are far more beneficial to a DPS build. And then we're going to go to Voltic Slash, which, yet again, it's the final ability that you get. I'm going to just take it because it does a nice amount of damage, and it strikes the target twice. So it can do 529 to 606 damage, and then that's per hit. So that's pretty powerful, and each use of the ability increases damage dealt by shock. So yet again, that's why I would, even though this is really beneficial to have, it kind of stacks with this and the other shock boosters. So shock really gets a powerful little surge because of all the abilities we have. So like use this and then you use shock, and I think if you use Surging Charge and then you use Voltic Slash and then you use shock is going to do a fuckload of damage just because you have so much boosting it with those abilities. So that's something to look into. Now, moving over into Madness and Darkness, I have points left over. As you can see, I have 10 points, and we are going to be spending them. So don't think you're just going to be hanging over like, oh yeah, you could get the Magnetism and stuff. There are more beneficial things to get, and that would be, I believe it's right here, Explosive Strike. There we go. The Explosive Strike at the Madness tree is very useful. Critical hits with force attacks increase your melee chance by 3% every 10 seconds. So this just increases your critical chance over time. And like I said, the Madness tree is built for damage, but the rest of the tree is not as ridiculously good as Deception. So this is something you do want to get, though, is Explosive Strike. And I'm going to put 3 points into that because critical chance is something that's very, very important to an assassin. And then we're going to move over here, and the two we're going to be taking is Thrashing Blades and Charge Mastery. Thrashing Blades is important because it increases the damage dealt by Thrash, Lacerate, and Voltic Slash by 3. Since we do have Voltic Slash up here, we really do want to increase the damage dealt by them. That's a no-brainer. It increases damage. You want to put points into it. And then we're going to take a look at Charge Mastery. Charge Mastery, it improves the effect of your lightsaber charge when they're active. Lightning Charge, Dark Charge, Surging Charge. So one of the big things about the assassin is basically you get abilities that oops, no, I want to commit these. And then basically the reason why you want to use these abilities is simply because, oh my god, I have insufficient force right now because of that skill thing. Come on, there we go. Because basically the way the assassin works is you can actually charge up your lightsaber with abilities. So like that right there is lightning charge, and it gives you lightning on your lightsaber. So all your attacks have more damage on them, which is kind of beneficial to have. I don't even know why you wouldn't use one of these. And then there's dark charge, which gives you a similar effect. You'd have to read through them. I'm not going through the abilities in this one. I'm just going through the build right now. I will make a future video about the assassin, a more complete one, which utilizes PvP and PvE gameplay to show you what I'm talking about. And then there's also Surging Charge, which is the one that we got. My personal favorite is Surging Charge, and so I've stacked Surging Charge on. And that is really why this ability, Charge Mastery, is really important, because it just increases what you're going to be having on your saber at all times anyway. If you are rolling the assassin correctly, you should have one of these 3 charges on your saber, and each one has a different situation in which it excels. So if you're going to be using them regularly anyway, why not have them equipped? Because it just adds damage. If you're not using them, you're not really utilizing the full ability of your assassin. So I'm going to put 3 points into Charge Mastery and easily commit those, because that's just something I want to have. Now, I do technically have 2 points left over. I could go for really anything. I mean, I could put 1 more point into Avoidance. I could put it into Sith Defense, reduce all damage taken by 1%. Increase Crackling Charge, increase damage dealt by Lightning Charge, Discharge effect, and reduce cooldown and Discharge and Lightning Charge. It really just depends on what you want to do. I personally, with these last 2 points, I generally just kind of throw them away somewhere. I could get Static Cling if I really wanted to, and then, no, I had 2 points for Magnetism. So I could get Static Cling and then just slow people down. I could get full Avoidance. It reduces the cooldown of Jolt by 1 second, but I really don't think I need that too much. I mean, it is good to slow things down. But we're going to look at over here. Let's see what we have over here in the darkness, because I really didn't have a this is usually the build that I have. And then the 2 points, I can't remember where I threw them away last time. I think I threw them away to Crackling Charge. But let's put them somewhere else. Let's allocate them somewhere else. So we have Shroud of Darkness, which increases your total endurance by 1%. Don't need that. That's tanking. Endurance is tanking. We have Lightning Recover. Increase the amount of force recovered by lightning reflexes by 1%. In addition, when you shield, parry, deflect attack, the active cooldown for Force Shroud is reduced. Nope, don't need that. That's defensive. Oh, this increases the Dark Charge effect, which is kind of useful. Oh, and then here we go. Electric Execution. That's actually pretty good. Increases the damage dealt by your lightning charges. And since lightning charge is pretty good, but it's not the one that I'm going to mainly be using, so I don't really think I'm going to take that one either. To be honest, completely in this situation, I think what I'm going to go for, and even though this isn't helping damage, lightning charge and discharge effect by 8%. This has always been the conundrum. I never know where to throw these last 2 points, because I basically have my build. I think what I'm going to go for is actually Sith Defiance. The reason, I don't know. I guess I'll do Static Cling. Now, the reason why I guess I'm going to do Static Cling, I could do Sith Defiance and just raise my defense, but that's not really beneficial. Static Cling is kind of annoying. It's kind of a bitch move. It increases the duration of Force Slow, which allows me to kind of just be a dick in PvP, and I like that because in PvP, I'm just going to commit to that. Yeah, I guess disregard it. Static Cling, you're going to have 2 points anyway. I always forget that I have those 2 points that I just kind of throw away. So you will have those 2 points. And if that doesn't become useful, I can always respec, because the base build that I showed you before those 2 points, that's where I put everything else. So I know where I put my shit. I don't need to really worry about everything else. Those are just kind of throwaways. But Static Cling is useful because in PvP, one of the things that the assassin has to really be worried about is that you can't be invisible forever. You only have so many cloaking abilities. So because of this, there are going to be times where you actually, unfortunately, will be in the spotlight. And when you're in the spotlight in PvP, it's really bad, because when you're fighting the Republic, especially if it's on a Sith on Sith battle or an Empire on Empire battle, you really have to be just worried because, man alive, fucking troopers will tear your shit up. So you have to really, really be careful about where you're coming out of cloak, things like that. And you really have to know how to enfeeble people too. And Force Slow will help me just tie someone down if I need to run away. Because it's not embarrassing if you have to run away as an assassin. Assassins are great at dealing damage, but they can't take the heat. So if you have to take that hit and its damage, you have to get out of there, and that's a good thing to have is Force Slow, because it ties your opponent down, makes it so they can't really get to you, and you're good to go. But that is my Sith Assassin build. The first of more to come. I will be bringing you out more videos on the Sith Assassin. I know I just got basically into his tree specking and everything like that, but I will be bringing you more to come just to showcase more of what the Sith Assassin has to offer and more of the classes. Like I said, keep it tuned into Token Gaijin Gaming for more on SWTOR and also our long-running series. And if you'd like to play along with us, we are still looking for 2 more authors to help us with this SWTOR guide. So please, if you'd like to join us, once again, tokengaijingaming@gmail.com. Alright folks, that's it for today's game. See you next time, nerds.